The story opens in the frigid waters of the Sea of Japan, where the USS Pueblo, outwardly a humble auxiliary cargo ship, moves slowly through gray winter swells off the coast of North Korea. On paper, she's an auxiliary cargo ship, light and oceanographic research vessel. In reality, she's part of a secret U.S. Navy program called Operation Clickbeetle, a fleet of electronic intelligence ships meant to monitor Soviet and Communist bloc communications. Only a handful of such ships exist. Her captain, Commander Lloyd M. Pete Butcher, is a career submariner whose first command this is. To his men he's calm, fatherly, and often sardonic, but privately he's plagued with doubts. From the moment the Pueblo left Yokosuka, Japan on January 5, he's been uneasy about nearly every aspect of the mission, especially the ship's lack of security precautions. The Pueblo is old and slow, with a top speed barely over 13 knots. It was originally built in 1944 as an Army freight vessel, later mothballed, and only recently pulled from storage and converted for espionage work. Its refit includes the Special Operations Department, sod hut, a cramped steel container mounted just forward of the bridge, locked behind triple doors. Inside, a team of communications technicians, CTs, works among racks of classified electronics designed to intercept and decrypt enemy signals. Their work is so secret that even Butcher has only partial clearance. The crew are improvising. The Pueblo's mission orders arrived only after departure from Yokosuka, sealed in a packet that Butcher opened at sea. The target, to his surprise, isn't Soviet traffic but the coast of North Korea, a volatile regime still technically at war with the United States. The instructions? Proceed north toward the Soviet border, then follow the Korean coast southward, mapping radar sites and collecting electronic emissions along the way, all while remaining outside the 12-mile territorial limit. From the start, Butcher senses trouble. The ship carries mountains of classified documents but possesses only a tiny recreational incinerator he purchased himself after Washington ignored his repeated requests for adequate destruction equipment. There are no explosives on board for emergency scuttling, and only 2.50 caliber machine guns, both wrapped in tarps and lashed down. The Liberty incident, 6 months earlier in the Mediterranean when an American intelligence ship was bombed and strafed by Israeli jets, haunts him. The Navy promised that lessons had been learned, that future missions would be better protected. Yet here he is again in hostile waters, essentially unarmed and expendable. By January 16, ice sheathes the decks as the Pueblo begins her operations north of the 38th parallel. The radios hum with faint chatter, mostly static. Day after day, the CTs complain there's little to collect. Butcher moves the ship slowly southward, hugging the edge of international waters. Soon the tension rises. North Korean trawlers appear, circling the American vessel at close range. The crew can see fishermen staring back at them through binoculars. One trawler closes within 25 yards. Butcher checks his navigation again, still outside 12 miles. He reminds himself that the sister ship, USS Banner, endured similar harassment from Soviets and Chinese but escaped without major incident. Then, at last, the CTs begin to record valuable transmissions from a coastal radar base near Wonsan. For the first time, the Pueblo's mission seems to be succeeding. That illusion shatters on January 23. As Butcher eats lunch in the galley, the lookout reports a North Korean So-1 submarine chaser approaching fast. Moments later, Butcher sprints to the bridge. The sleek gray patrol craft closes within gun range, signal flags snapping in the wind. Heave to or I will fire. Butcher cannot believe it. The Pueblo's navigation fix shows them well outside territorial waters. Before he can respond, 2 MiG fighters streak overhead, sonic thunder rolling over the frozen deck. Then 3 torpedo boats join the sub-chaser, boxing the Pueblo in. The situation escalates with terrifying speed. The sub-chaser fires a burst of 25 cannon shells across the bow, warning shots, but one round rips into the mast, showering the bridge with shrapnel. Butcher and 2 sailors are hit. He orders emergency destruction of all classified material. Below decks, the CTs attack their code machines with sledgehammers and axes. Sailors tear manuals into single sheets, feeding them page by page into the undersized incinerator. Others cram documents into trash cans to burn. Smoke fills the passageways. Meanwhile, the Korean gunboats tighten their circle. Butcher considers returning fire, but his machine guns aren't even mounted. If he opens up, the Koreans will annihilate them instantly. Protect your crew, he reminds himself. More shells rake the bridge, killing 1 sailor outright and disabling the ship's steering. The Pueblo drifts dead in the water. Butcher's wound burns, blood seeps through his parka, yet he keeps shouting orders, anything to buy time for the men destroying secrets below. Realizing that escape is impossible and that no American support can arrive in time, Butcher decides on a desperate bluff. When the Koreans signal "follow me," he answers by moving ahead at 1/3 speed, hoping to stall them long enough to finish burning the codes. But the engine room reports critical damage. He staggers to his cabin to retrieve remaining classified manuals. The pain in his abdomen tells him the shrapnel may have punctured his intestines, but he ignores it. Grabbing the sensitive binders, he hands them to a young sailor. "Burn these!" He collects his 2 personal pistols, a .22 and a .38, and orders them thrown overboard. "No enemy gets my guns." Back on the bridge, he surveys the horizon, surrounded by 2 sub-chasers, 4 torpedo boats, and 2 circling MiGs. There is no rescue coming. Inside the sod hut, CTs are still smashing equipment, but there's far too much to destroy. Butcher knows the remaining codebooks and encryption devices will fall into enemy hands. He faces the impossible command dilemma: resist and lose every man, or surrender and save their lives while handing the enemy a trove of intelligence. Another shell tears through the superstructure. The ship's medic screams for help, the wounded are piling up, one sailor nearly disemboweled. The deck is slick with blood and seawater. Butcher returns to the bridge, watches the signal flags rise again on the lead North Korean ship, ordering them to halt. He hesitates only a moment before saying quietly, "All stop." For a heartbeat, the guns fall silent. Then, to remind him who's in charge, the Koreans unleash one more barrage that shatters windows and sends splinters of steel through the wheelhouse. Butcher restarts the engines at 1/3 speed and the firing ceases. The game is over. He looks toward the gray coastline of Wonsan, now barely visible through the haze. He thinks of all the ways this might have been prevented: better destruction gear, explosives, clear rules of engagement. He has none of those. 10 armed North Korean soldiers board from a torpedo boat, rifles and bayonets ready. 2 officers follow, epaulets gleaming. One strides directly up to Butcher, presses a pistol to the captain's temple, and shouts an order in Korean. The USS Pueblo, a United States Navy vessel, is captured. The next day, thousands of miles away, Mikhail Lavrinenko, director of the Soviet Military Intelligence Service, GRU, receives a nervous visitor. The man is Sergei Igorov, a civilian engineer summoned without explanation from East Berlin to Moscow. His hands tremble, his fingernails are bitten raw. He doesn't yet know whether he's being promoted or condemned. Lavrinenko, a massive, disheveled bear of a man, presides over a cluttered office inside the GRU's headquarters complex. The aquarium, a drab glass tower surrounded by barbed wire and aging Soviet concrete blocks. Outside the window stands a crematorium whose chimney emits a thin ribbon of gray smoke. Every GRU officer knows its significance. The smoke is a warning. To ease or perhaps sharpen his guest's nerves, Lavrinenko remarks dryly, "Do not worry, Comrade Igorov, only papers are being burned today. Humans make a darker smoke." The line encapsulates everything about the GRU: bureaucratic menace mixed with gallows humor. As Igorov squirms in his chair, Lavrinenko studies him. Beneath the engineer's sweat and fear, he sees potential usefulness. The GRU director has plans both for his organization and for himself. Lavrinenko's own career has been a cycle of ascent and humiliation. Once a star cryptanalyst in the KGB, he headed a special section designed to infiltrate the U.S. National Security Agency. His results were impressive until political rivalries brought him down. The Soviet hierarchy routinely demoted successful intelligence officers lest they threaten their superiors. Lavrinenko had survived that purge, landing in the GRU, the military's intelligence arm, rival to the KGB. The rivalry suits him fine. It gives him freedom to maneuver and perhaps a path back to the power he once held. The narrative pauses to paint a chilling picture of the GRU's world. Beneath the aquarium lies a mass grave dating from Stalin's purges. Every recruit has been forced to watch a training film in which a bound man is burned alive in the furnace, a warning against betrayal. The ever-present chimney, its smoke visible from Lavrinenko's window, reminds officers of their eventual fate, either cremated as loyal servants or as traitors. Against this backdrop, the meeting with Igorov takes on heavy symbolism. Igorov has arrived from East Berlin, where he works on communications and encryption technology, areas crucial to both Soviet and Western intelligence. The abrupt summons suggests that something extraordinary has happened. Lavrenenko's opening questions confirm the reader's suspicion that the GRU already knows about the USS Pueblo incident. The Soviets may have foreseen it, or perhaps even orchestrated it through their North Korean allies. Lavrenenko himself is intrigued by the timing. A U.S. spy ship laden with cryptographic equipment has just fallen into communist hands. The treasure trove of American code machines and documents could revolutionize Soviet understanding of U.S. signals intelligence. And Lavrenenko, master cryptanalyst and bureaucratic survivor, intends to make sure that treasure flows through his office rather than the KGB. Igorov, the nervous engineer, becomes a pawn in this larger game. His expertise in encryption hardware will be essential once the captured materials arrive in Moscow. Lavrenenko probes his loyalty, his technical acumen, and above all, his discretion. Each answer Igorov gives will decide whether he ascends into the GRU's inner circle or exits through the crematorium chimney. The conversation, measured and menacing, unfolds like a chess match. Lavrenenko muses aloud about the rivalry between the GRU and the KGB, about the decay of the Soviet bureaucracy, and about how history repeats itself. Ivan Serov, once head of the KGB, had been demoted to the GRU, only to see his career end in disgrace when a protege betrayed him. Lavrenenko vows he will not suffer the same fate. Through subtle exposition, we learn that Lavrenenko plans to use the Pueblo crisis as leverage to re-establish himself within the KGB hierarchy by controlling the analysis of the captured American codes. If he can demonstrate that his division can crack the United States' most secret systems, he will again be indispensable to the Kremlin. He lets Igorov stew in silence before revealing the stakes. The GRU will soon receive sensitive American equipment from an allied state. It must be analyzed and reverse-engineered under conditions of absolute secrecy. The operation will be dangerous politically as well as technically. Failure will mean disgrace or worse. Success could reshape the balance of global signals intelligence. Igorov, pale and sweating, realizes that the director is offering him both an opportunity and a death sentence. Lavrenenko ends the meeting with an almost paternal smile. "You will remain here in Moscow," he tells the engineer. "There is much work to be done. History is being made, comrade." Outside, the gray smoke continues to drift from the crematorium chimney, merging with the overcast sky, a reminder of the thin line between promotion and annihilation in the Soviet world.